If you have your Bible there close to hand and you can turn with us, let's look together at the book of Job in the Old Testament, starting with chapter 3, verse 1. I did consult with our deacon body this week electronically and recommended to them that we start back with on-site gathering next Sunday. That's February the 14th. Adult Sunday school in the sanctuary at 10 o'clock. If you still feel comfortable just joining us electronically and only wish to do that, that is fine. But if you'd like to have the option of coming and being with us, we do have the disclaimer on there. It's just like we can't tell you that it's okay to get in your automobile and drive, but because driving a car is very dangerous. We can't tell you to take this particular kind of medication because all medications have serious side effects. My favorite side effect that's often announced in commercials is, if you're allergic to this, don't take it. If you're allergic to this, don't take it. So that pretty much covers them legally, I guess. It was someone come up and says, well, he died. Well, yeah, we told him not to take it, and so he did. So it's kind of like, come on to church, just don't come to church. It's kind of a difficult backward. It is. We're not asking you to come here because it's 100% safe. We're saying if you are already going to work or out there in the workplace, if you're exposed, probably about half of the people that are going to be here next Sunday have already had the coronavirus, and it is really questionable as to whether they're still contagious or not. But no, life is not safe. But we're trying to develop some avenues or options for normalcy. I've declared if you are a member of a family that's expecting a new arrival, stay at home. Don't be putting your children or your unborn child at risk. We've got one of our own, and I would not ask her to, Carice or Brian or the girls to come because Harper is on the way. We'll be here the 1st of April. My goodness, that'll be here very soon. But we're going to be meeting, we'll still be broadcasting on Facebook, Sunday School, and also our 11 o'clock worship hour as we did previously. But if you wish to come and be on site for the on-site, we're going to ask everyone to please wear a mask as you enter the building and as you leave. Hands sanitized throughout the process. Do not touch anyone or shake anyone's hand or embrace. And as I said, if you are at high risk, if you're in that high risk category, would ask you then please to stay away, stay where it is safe. We're looking at, this is part 5 of our message in Job. Job is probably the oldest story in the Bible. Here in Job chapter 3, verse 1, it says, after this, in other words, after Job's 3 friends showed up, and they were silent. They just sat silently with him for 7 days, didn't say a word, and they were just grieving with him. But after this, it says, Job opened his mouth and cursed the day of his birth. Now, you find it, we have found in the first 2 chapters of Job, it goes to great lengths to indicate to us that at no time did Job ever curse God. And as a matter of fact, that was a part of the devil's bet or the wager. Said if you take away, you're just protecting him. You're just got a hedge built around him. But if you will take away everything that he has, he will curse you to your face. Now, that didn't work. He says, well, if you take away his health so that he is sick. So God allowed Satan to smite Job from the top of his head to the sole of his feet with boils. And still, it says that Job maintained his integrity. As a matter of fact, his wife came to him and said, do you still maintain your integrity? Why don't you just curse God and die? Well, there are many things that are part of your faith and mine. There's many things that are part of your religion and mine, a part of what we believe that is just not founded in reality and in truth. The Bible never says anywhere that if you'll curse God, that it's an instant death sentence. You get the impression that whoever wrote the book of Job, that cursing God was the worst thing that you could ever do. As a matter of fact, in the first chapter, Job, when he heard about his 7 sons and his 3 daughters getting together for a birthday celebration, Job would make sacrifices to God in their behalf just in case they had cursed God and didn't realize it. Let me tell you something. There's no difference in cursing God and cursing the day you were born. You know why? There's no difference between cursing God and cursing what only God can do. God is the only one that can create a life. The reason Job was born was because God created his life. So you might be able to say, well, I never cursed God, but I just cursed the day that I was born. In other words, God is not to be cursed in his own person, but he has done some very unquestionable things and some very doubtful things and some things that we could criticize, and so I'm going to curse the day I was born. You can't do that. It's one and the same. If you curse the day you were born, you're cursing the person who gave you birth. May the day of my birth perish, and the night that said a boy is conceived. That day may it turn into darkness. May God above not care about it. May no light shine upon it. In other words, I just wish that it could be perceived that could just go away as if it never happened. I like time travel, science fiction. One of my favorite stories was the television series Quantum Leap. Scott Bakula played that series. I think it only lasted about 4 or 5 seasons. But what the Quantum Leap story was about is a scientist who had figured out a way to travel back into time to undo things, to fix things. As a matter of fact, to correct mistakes. The very last episode, Sam finally got to meet God. He was a bartender. Sam finally got to meet God, and you know, God didn't really act like God might have. It was made very obvious all the way through the Quantum Leap series, which was very unusual. That they had the science, and there was all different kinds of scientific theory and quantum theory, but it was stated undeniably all through the series that the reason they were being able to do what they were able to do was because of God. And so the last episode had God as one of the characters. And the way the story ends is that he doesn't send Sam home. He says, you got more work to do. But I think in a real story where human imagination is not in control, God might appear and say, hey, all these mistakes you're correcting, don't you think that they're my mistakes? And yes, we probably look at our life, and we may look at the lives of others. We may look at human events and say, well, that kind of looks like God messed up. It looks like a mistake. And if I could use all of my knowledge of quantum mechanics and I could travel back in time, I would fix that. I would undo that. I would save that person's life. I would change that. I don't know if we'll ever discover exactly how to travel forward or backward in time. I think we pretty much got traveling forward in time nailed down. I'm doing it right now. I'm moving into the future. But though we might say Job had great integrity, when he really get right down to it, he's criticizing God. Because if this had been just completely undone, it would be of no consequence. May gloom and utter darkness claim it once more. May a cloud settle over it. May blackness overwhelm it. That night may thick darkness seize it. He's trying to find every poetic way to say that the day that I was born was just a bad day. May it not be included among the days of the year. nor entered into any of the months. You've heard that old riddle, haven't you? How many months are in a year? 12. How many seconds are in a year? 12. January 2nd, February 2nd, March 2nd, April 2nd, you know, like that. Someone asked, do you have 4th of July in your country? He said, yeah, but we just don't shoot fireworks on that. It's still July the 4th, but it's not a holiday for us. Well, if you came along and had a day missing, well, what happened? What happened to the 7th of February? Well, that was the day somebody was born, and it was a bad day. We just knocked it off the calendar. Talking about time travel, I remember when I was a little boy, Mama used to put up a calendar on the kitchen wall so that we could mark off with a big red X how many days there were left to Christmas. Later on, they started coming on television telling you how many shopping days there were left of Christmas. Seemed to make time crawl so very slowly. Around the 1st of December is when Hank Ketchum started having Dennis the Menace trying ever so hard to be good enough for Santa Claus's notice. He says, may that night be barren, may no shout of joy be heard in it. You know, he's describing something. When a baby's born, it's a lot of times in the dead of night, people shout. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. Happy day. When a new life comes into the world. Even though he's cursing the day, he is talking about, you know, on the day that I was born, somebody somewhere makes that a special day. That's my birthday. I might have cake. Someone might come to me and say, happy birthday. In all of this gloom and dark, he's actually saying, you know, usually when somebody's born, they just say, oh, wonderful. May those who curse days curse that day. Evidently, that's a job you can get. Those who are ready to raise up Leviathan, may its morning stars become dark. May it wait for daylight in vain and not see the first rays of dawn. For it did not shut the doors of the womb on me and hide trouble from my eyes. Why did I not perish at birth and die as I came from the womb? Why were there knees to receive me and breasts that I might be nursed? You see, even with a child being born, a lot of things have to happen. And actually, it's not just a divine process entirely, because God has people in the lives of most newborn babies to catch them when they arrive, to feed them, to nurse them. For now I would be lying down in peace. I would be asleep and at rest, with kings and rulers of the earth who built for themselves palaces or places, now lying in ruins, with princes who had gold, who filled their houses with silver. He said, I would be in some pretty good company right now if I was dead. Why was I not hidden away in the ground like a stillborn child? There are many people under the mistaken notion that when a baby is stillborn, that there's no grieving, that a baby's life has not been lost. When there's a premature loss of birth, when a baby or an infant dies in the womb, that there's no sadness, there's no grief. It's just something that really wasn't even there at all, and now it's gone. That's not true at all. You will find that people who are experienced the very same thing. If Job's life had ended, if he'd been born, stillborn, there would have been grief and loss. and devastation, and people would have cried out then, God, why did you let this happen? There the wicked cease from turmoil, and there the weary are at rest. Captives also enjoy their ease. They no longer hear the slave drivers shout. The small and the great are there, and the slaves are freed from their owners. We've talked a little bit about Job's owning slaves. And it never really addresses them directly, but here the Word of God says that even Job is declared to be a good person, is a slave owner, and yet he knows. He does have a good heart, and God has spoken with him, and the Spirit of God has impressed upon him. He was saying that if I'd never been born, it would be a good thing like slaves being freed from their owners. Even though Job owned people, and the people that he owned probably didn't have black skin. They probably didn't even have brown skin. We don't know. But this was before the age when people even discovered that there were people for the taking in the continent of Africa to serve white-skinned people. You see, if we look at slavery and say that the reason slavery is wrong is because of racism, we're missing the whole point. Because white people have owned black people, and black people have owned black people, and black people have owned white people, and people of all colors and all races have been unkind to each other, and they've subjugated each other. They've conquered each other. They've mistreated each other. They've destroyed each other. And to say, well, it's because of the pigmentation of their skin, that's what it's all about. To make something so very deeply dark and immoral because of the shade of someone's skin, you've missed the point. And as long as, I still see and remember from my childhood seeing a white water fountain and a water fountain for what we'll call colored people, for coloreds and whites. Once you make it an issue about the color of someone's skin, then you're never actually going to get down to the nitty-gritty of what it's really about. Owning people is wrong. Mistreating or possessing people is wrong. It's immoral. It doesn't matter what color their skin is. It doesn't matter what race they are. It has nothing to do with their culture or our differences. I believe there's something in the human heart that makes us want to dominate others. It makes us feel that we're superior to others. It doesn't matter what color my skin is. I want everything to go my way. It's not racism, it's me-ism. What makes it wrong is that it is selfish, and it involves greed. To think that we can possess. Here, Job is saying, I wish that I'd never had a life, and yet he knows in his heart that to have a life is value, and to have a life that is free is of the greatest value at all. Even though we know that Job was a sinner, we know that there were flaws in Job's life, and it is simply in the same way that God chooses through Christ to look at us and see us as righteous, that it is simply God's choice to see us that way. It is not because we are that way. If God sees me as a perfect person, it's not because I'm perfect, it's because He's made a moral choice, that in Christ He counts me righteous. I don't deserve that, and yet I'm a beneficiary of it. Job knew that it was a good thing for slaves to be freed from their owners. It didn't have anything to do with the language that they spoke, the nation that they were from, the culture that gave rise to them, or the color of their skin. Why is light given to those in misery, and life to the bitter of soul? To those who long for death that does not come, who search for it more than hidden treasure, who are filled with gladness and rejoice when they reach the grave. Why is life given to a man whose way is hidden, whom God has hedged in? For sighing has become my daily food. My groans pour out like water. What I feared has come upon me. What I dreaded has happened to me. I have no peace, no quietness. I have no rest, but only turmoil. If you've ever been really sick, you can understand. I can understand that. I've been really sick before, and I said, you know, I remember a couple of years ago when I had a heart attack. I was hoping I'd either pass out, lose consciousness, or die. I just wanted the pain to stop. Many years ago, I was in a conference that was led by a very popular Christian conference leader. We went to a great, huge arena. We drove for quite a long time to get there with many people in our church. We went along together. And when we got there, there were thousands of other Christians there to hear the wisdom and to learn what this man had to teach. When he came to this place, and he was teaching many things, but he came to this verse 25 in the book of Job, chapter 3. And he said, we're about to find out why Job lost his children. We're about to see who was to blame for all of Job's problems. We're going to see if we can read between the lines here. It's very subtly given that this is who is to blame for all of Job's worries. He says, look right here. What I feared has come upon me, and what I dreaded has happened to me. Have you ever said these words before? I knew that was going to happen. I just knew that something bad was going to happen. If you're a big Star Wars fan, in every one of the Star Wars movies, someone says the line, this line right here, I got a really bad feeling about this. I got a really bad feeling about this. And you know what? They're always right. The reason Job had lost his children and all of his cattle and all of his help, the reason he had lost his health is because he brought it all into existence by negative thinking. Now let me tell you what, that's a lie. That is not true. You see, there is a world of people out there, and it so surprised me to hear it come from this particular Christian leader. I've been hearing for most of my Christian life the name it and claim it crowd. In other words, if you'll just speak it, you can make it happen. If you'll visualize it, it's called faith imaging. If you can imagine something, what you're doing is you're creating such a positive power of thinking, the power of positive thinking, that you can actually create a good and positive reality. But if you're thinking in that stinking thinking, if you got that stinking thinking, if you're thinking bad thoughts, then bad things are going to happen. That is not true. I've known some of the most upbeat, faithful, and optimistic people of my entire life who've had tremendous tragedies in their life. Almost all of us will at some time or another. And there have been times when I have been filled with gloom and doubt and dread and just thinking, this is never going to turn out. I just got a bad feeling about this. And yet the grace of God has come in and changed things from darkness to light. You and I are not controlling reality by the way we think or what we believe. There are lots of things that you can believe in with all your heart, and they're never going to happen. There are lots of things you can just doubt. As a matter of fact, I've read a book called Without Faith. So many times, even when God came to Zechariah and said, you and your wife are going to have a baby. He's going to be John the Baptist. And John said, What? How's that going to happen? How am I going to know? Came and talked to Mary, the mother of Jesus. She said, how can this be, seeing I know not a man? And then came to Joseph, and we're going to have a baby, and the father is God. And Joseph said, well, we're just going to have to get a divorce. At every turn in the step of the story of the gospel, they were saying, oh, no, I'm not optimistic about that at all. And yet God came through. What gives me great hope and confidence is that God is in control. I'm not controlling the universe by my positive or negative thinking. I like being optimistic. I like being upbeat. I like being positive. I enjoy looking at the brighter side of things. But you know, it doesn't always happen. And just because something bad happens doesn't mean God has lost control somehow. It means God is still in control. Remember what Job said? He said, you're talking like one of the foolish women. He said, are we going to receive good things at the hand of the Lord and we're not going to receive evil? You know, that's going to happen. When I read in chapter 1 of Job that Job would get up early in the morning and he says, I'm scared that my children may have cursed God, and he made sacrifice. You know, I knew he was thinking, I'm afraid they're going to curse God, and God is going to punish them. And when his children died, they said, Job was saying, well, I knew that was going to happen. I knew that was going to happen. No, he didn't. He didn't know that was going to happen. He didn't make that happen. That's not why it happened. You and I know why it happened, and it had nothing to do with Job creating a reality around him by imaging it. I wish I could control how positive or negative I feel. As a human being, sometimes if it rains or snows, if it's dark, or if it's cold, sometimes that affects the way I feel about life. When the sun is shining and I got money in my pocket and things are going my way, I can just feel like I'm on cloud nine. Yeah, I like that feeling. But I didn't create it by thinking it into existence. I didn't faith it. I didn't name it and claim it. Job is right. All different kinds of things are going to happen. And God is up in heaven. He's the one that's making all of it happen. He's the one in control of it. He's testing us. And yes, He's trying us. And sometimes it's dark and it's difficult. But He gave us this life. And it matters. No, Job is not to blame. And I can't look at you and say, well, you know why this happened to you, don't you? Because you knew it was going to happen all along. You were expecting it to happen. You believed it. It wasn't any way. You brought this on yourself. That's not true. That's just not true. Don't let anybody convince you of that at all. The reason Jesus came to die for us is so that we could get what He wants us to have, not what we deserve or not what we've thought into existence or brought upon ourselves. He wants in the very worst kind of way for us not to have what we wish upon ourselves come to pass. He wishes well for us. For those of us who call Him by name, He has a plan for us. He wants to do good things for us in and through and to us. No, that's nonsense. Don't listen to that kind of stuff. Do not listen to that kind of stuff. Yeah, Job, he was afraid this was going to happen. I think everybody that's ever been rich said, well, I was afraid one day I was going to be poor. Everybody that's ever had a healthy day, if they ever found themselves in the hospital, said, well, I knew it was too good to last. I knew it was too good to last. I knew I was going to be sick one day. That's all nonsense. That's nonsense. Call it for what it is. The grace of God is with us in the light and in the dark. And it's a good thing that you were born. Not a bad thing at all. Find out, as Mark Twain said, and he wasn't all that smart a person. He was just clever. Find out why. And then it doesn't matter whether it rains or shines. If you know why you're here, if you know your purpose in life, it doesn't matter what the weather is, what your temperature is, or how good you feel. I like feeling good, but I like even more knowing that God is in control of my reality. You think about that. You look to God and make your expectation from Him. And whatever your fears or your dreads or your worries are about, I like what Simon Peter said. He says, casting your care upon Him because He cares for you. All right? God bless you all.